Greetings, YouTubers. In this video I'm going to explain 3 types of astrology, which I was going to do in my previous video about benefic and malefic planets. But I've given myself a few days to organize my thoughts about describing 3 types of astrology. And so here we go. We're going to use, let's say, a theosophical view of the human being, and 4 parts. The first part of the human being is the physical body. So the physical body is actually the oldest part of the human being. It existed as a design before the world, before the earth existed. So it wasn't actually a material, at first it wasn't like a material body. It was a design for a body which would bear the human spirit. The next part is a life body, which brings the activities of life, in particular, let's say, growth, maintenance, and reproduction. These are the main activities of the life body. I must say, I don't feel like an expert in this respect. These are actually quite profound descriptions. The mysteries of the physical body are largely unknown, you could say. We know more about life, but still, actual life, its nature, is a mystery. The next level, the next part of the human being is called astral body. And the 4th part is the I organization, the part about which we know. The person the person who gives me this information, from which I've got this knowledge, is in particular Rudolf Steiner. And this little nuance, that it's called a physical body, it's called a life body, it's called an astral body, but this I is called an organization. And this is the youngest part of the human being. This is the newest. And in this part, The consciousness we can call awake. And in our astral body, we dream. The consciousness is called dream consciousness. And its logic, of course, is different to our rational awake consciousness. Dream consciousness makes different connections. Upside down, back to front. The consciousness in the life body is called sleeping consciousness. And further from our waking consciousness is the physical, which is in trance consciousness. The part of the world which has a physical body only is the mineral kingdom. The part of the world which has physical and life bodies is the plant kingdom. The part of the world which has physical, life and astral bodies is the animal kingdom. And the part of the world which has an eye organization is the human kingdom. Which people argue whether it exists or not. And if anything, I would say at least it is becoming. It is in becoming. So now I can describe 3 types of astrology which actually correspond to these 3 parts of the human being: the astral, the astral body, the life body, and the physical body. So if we are to study and if we are to study the astral nature of the human being, we have a method here called Sidereal Astrology. Notice that the name of this part of the human being is named after the stars. So it wouldn't surprise us that in studying the stars, we can find the nature, or we can investigate the astral body of the human being. It's what it's called. It's a star body. If we want to investigate the life body of the human being, you can use a method called human design, which I have only known about for a couple of years, but it was developed in 1987, I'm guessing, by a man who adopted the name Ra-Uru-Hu. And I never knew anything about it. This is about the same time that I was discovering Western astrology. And this was just being born, but I knew nothing about it. until a couple of years ago, until it had already been in the world for over 30 years. If I were naming this, I would call it human nature, for reasons I'll explain in a moment. Now there is also, so here's one type of astrology, here's one type of astrology, a second, which they distinguish from normal astrology. They don't call themselves astrologers. They don't, but it uses the position of the planets in a tropical zodiac to describe human nature. The third one is the Tzolk'in. This is the 260-day calendar of the Mayan calendar, or Tzolk'in. Now, the Tzolk'in, in these 260 days, it has, so 260 days, that's the only, that's the structure of the Mayan calendar. And it's not defined by any cosmic rhythm except the spinning of the earth 260 times. And every 260 days, the calendar refreshes and starts again. It's independent of any other rhythm in the cosmos, except for the spinning of the earth. Among these 260 days, 52 correspond to points on the body, which are used in Jinshin Jiutsu. Now that's not a martial art, which has a similar name, but an acupressure massage system from Japan, Jinshin Jiutsu. So this is where it connects with the physical body through these 52 points, 26 on each side of the body. Human design uses 64 hexagrams. 64 hexagrams from the Chinese oracle called the Yi King, I Ching. It's spelt like I Ching, but I heard it is pronounced I King. And these 64 hexagrams are used to divide the tropical zodiac, or the tropical zodiac, which is also the calendar we use. It aligns with the solstices and equinoxes. And we add in a day every 4 years to make sure that it stays lined up with the solstices and equinoxes. It's a tropical calendar. "64 hexagrams divide the tropical year." In Sidereal Astrology, we have 7 planets, 12 constellations, and the moon's nodes. so here we have 3 types of astrology, which each allow us to investigate 3 different parts of the human being. The most profound being the Tzolk'in, which maps the physical body as well as the spirit, well, the most profound and fundamentally spirit. You know, this physical body, that's the oldest and most perfect. And you might immediately think, oh, but hang on, the physical body is subject to disease. But the disease is not a result of the physical, the most perfect part of the human being. It's actually because of the abuse we put the physical body to, with our habits and our incursions we make with our desire nature and the things we like sugar, my weakness, which actually interfere with the physical body. The physical body does well to tolerate the abuses we give it, especially in the modern world with all our refined foods. And this is the most profound of the astrologies, the Tzolk'in, which maps the physical body into a 260-day cycle. Human design, which I would call human nature because of its correspondence to the cycles of the seasons, which nature is in tune with, the seasons of the year. And human nature. This system delves into the working of the glandular system and the chakras. And I've only just started to learn about it, but I'll share more with you about it. It becomes very interesting because I've told you that I want to share with you Melbourne's birth chart, the city where I live in Australia. And it would be, you see, I will share with you a human design for Melbourne. And like I say, I've only been looking at human design a couple of years, and really, well, it's very interesting for plotting relationships. And so I've looked at my human design chart and the human design chart for the city in which I live, and I found that interesting to investigate. And Sidereal Astrology, which was my first, it wasn't. Western astrology was my first entrance into this kind of research. And when I was about it was 40 years old, I started studying Sidereal Astrology. And this is where we are more conscious of what's going on. And this is where it is in this that we can investigate the destiny. Or you could even call it biography. The events in someone's life around which their destiny is revolves. And the number of these events, you can think of 6 to 12 events which have really directed the course of our life. That's what I do with Sidereal Astrology. In my next lecture, in my next video, I will talk about, I need to describe the aspects which this used in the Sidereal Astrology I do, and that will be describing those aspects. That'll be one video, and then after that I'm going to go straight into and do my own birth chart and describe the main events which are evident in my birth chart. I'm a little bit conflicted about the content of my videos. I'm also want to make videos outside, exploring Melbourne, and actually that's what I'm kind of longing for. But there's, I don't know, I put obstacles in my way a little bit towards doing that. I want to share, in a way I'm kind of plotting how I will introduce Melbourne to you, which I hope you will appreciate. It's Melbourne that I love. I'm conflicted a little bit because how much of my money am I going to invest in this drawing room experience with the camera? And I'm tossing up buying blackboards to make this process a whole lot easier, mainly. I mean, this system I'm doing, this is a one use. I can't rub this out. It just smudges all over. It's on paper. I'm on paper. And but the blackboards I'm looking at are quite expensive, and I'd rather buy a bike and put a camera on the bike to explore Melbourne. Anyway, there are two more things I want to share, and one of them is this poem which I've written here. The poem is by Wolfgang Goethe, and I've done a loose translation. This is how I remember when I was at art school. We used to do speechify to this, and I didn't find the translation which we used, and I've kind of improvised how I remember. And it's not perfect, it's not good grammar, and it's a little bit odd, but for me this is how I remember the verse. In breathing air are two types of graces. The air we breathe in and the air we release. That one is effort. The other one reveals how wonderful the meaning of life. Thanking God when first he presses me, and thanking again when he releases me. This is a poem which just helped me enter these different realms of the human being. And it is in here, at this level in particular, that this verse speaks. What made me think of these three parts of the human being and attributing them to three types of astrology was the fact that when I do sidereal astrology, I'm very aware of its polarizing nature, of the fact that there are benefic and malefic planets, and that the play between these is polarizing, and how we love the things which we like, which we love. We love some things and we hate things, and our destiny is somehow a rickety trail trying to move towards the things we love and away from the things we hate. But it can be quite treacherous. And the moon's nodes are also pull us in two different directions. The north node into the world and a type of mania, and the south node out of the world and possible isolation and depression. And when I thought about this level of the life body, it is so helpful to be grateful for life, regardless of what the pains and sufferings that it causes. It's so helpful to be grateful, which is what this verse means to me, is that life presses us and enriches us in turn. But in both of these, it's so healthy to bring gratitude, even when we suffer, even when life means we suffer. Now, these three levels of the human being, each have their own modes of knowledge, and they each have, different ways of enriching us. In modern life, entry into these mysteries will often send people insane. In ancient times, there were years of preparation which were made before people were introduced to these mysteries. But today we encounter them in day-to-day life, and exposure to them often leads people, because of their very nature, they will often send people insane. An example is Nietzsche. Of course, by using this verse, I kind of acknowledge that Goethe has entry into this part of the human being. He was very interested in the idea of an original plant, like a generic plant, the form of the fundamental form behind all plants. And so he investigates this. But also appreciate that as human beings, we are granted access to these levels spasmodically and then thrown back out on our own resources. That's part of the journey, especially probably here. This level called in the mysteries the manas. Manas, buddhi, atma. These are the Eastern names for these parts of the human being. And because they have these three different modes, but then how confusing there is, and I'm going to finish on this note, there is a being which brings these mysteries to the human being as her special task, in a way digestible, manageable by the human being. And this being, and I'll write her name here, but she's not human. She's a spiritual being of the level archangel, and her name is Wisdom. And of course there is a temple in her name in Istanbul called Hagia Sophia.